I move objects with my mind. I climb the tallest mountains and slay dragons. I defend my galaxy from ruthless aliens. I am never bored. I am stronger. I am faster. I am G1.
Hello guys and welcome back to WCS Premier League Season 2. I'm joined on the couch this time with a different face. Of course we have Chris Loranger. Huck, how are you doing? There's a mic over there. It's alright, first day. It's on.
Oh, thank you. I'm doing good, how are you?
I'm doing great. You were actually casting that first series, so what was your thought on the start of the day?
In general, I didn't feel like Jim was going to do as well as he did, but he was willing to take the risks he needed to do well. And on top of that, like I said in the cast, he really played to his image, which is something not a lot of players consider, and I feel like he abused really well.
Yeah, it's interesting because most of the time when people think about the Chinese players, because they have so many ping issues over there, we just have come to grown to expect them to use these cheeses or aggressive strategies. So I think that caught everybody off guard when Jim came up with these really nice macro builds, well, except for the second.
Well, I feel like in general, the Chinese players are more hidden. Their build orders, they kind of practice within themselves. They, of course, play Korean ladder, but they don't play, you know, Pro League, Caspa Cup, GSL, all these things. So they have all this time to practice, and it's a lot harder to study them as a pro player than, you know, someone else like maybe Pult or Hydra, you know, really skilled players, but they have a lot more information.
Well, Jim was able to win that first game. He's going to have to play the winner of our next match of the day. It'll be Bunny versus Petraeus. Now, this match is really interesting, as everyone should know. Bunny is arguably the best foreigner that is playing right now. Petraeus, on the other hand, not as well known, though I have heard from many different pro players speak very highly of him, saying he's a very good player. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like the #1 foreigner position is kind of up for contention right now between Bunny and Snoot. So they're kind of going back and forth, but I would definitely consider him 1 or 2 right now. And then, like you said, Petraeus, I mean, among like pro players, that small circle, he's a beast. Everybody knows he's a beast, and he's finally getting the results. But the question is, can he translate that to a live stage? He's really good online.
Exactly. In the past few months, actually, he's participated in, I believe, almost every online tournament out there. He's been a very, very busy guy. But it comes down to what you just said. Can he perform on the main stage here at WCS Premier League? With this guy over here, he's the exact opposite case. We've kind of seen him at every major tournament this year so far. He's been so busy the past few weeks. Gfinity, then he was at DreamHack Tour right after that, and now he is here. Do you think that's going to affect his condition at all, or do you think that makes him more prepared headed into this today?
Well, I know personally from talking to him, he woke up at about 4 a.m., so he's a little jet-lagged, but he's been calm, cool, collected, and backstage practicing, just doing his own thing. It's more up to Petraeus. You know, is he going to bring his A game? Because he's not used to playing on a stage like this. He hasn't competed that much, where although Bunny might be tired, he's conditioned, he's used to it, he's used to traveling, he's well experienced, he's a seasoned veteran at this point. And Petraeus is playing, you know, probably the top foreigner right now. I don't know. It's hard to say. If he brings his A game, he has a real shot. If he gets nervous, he will crumble to the pressure.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I believe we're actually getting this game ready for you guys. The casters that will be presenting this game to you guys will be Nathanius and Greetorb, so guys, take it away.
Thank you very much, Sue. And we are just about getting ready. We're in the lobby for the first game of our second series. How are you, Andre?
I'm doing great, man. Can't wait for this. You know, you were talking, actually, both of us were talking about how much we were expecting this upcoming best of 3, man. These two players are sickos, and what I love about it, they're both been training for the past, I would say, 3 to 6 months, completely polar opposites. One guy's training completely on tournaments, one guy's the ladder warrior. That's so cool, man. I love when those styles clash.
I mean, I spent a lot of time in Europe, and like I lived with the Muslim for almost a month, and whenever I would talk to these guys about their ladder experiences, it'd be like, oh, so like you play a lot of games, Ben? Like, how'd your ladder go? He's like, oh, well, you know, I played about 15 games versus Petraeus, and I won maybe half of them because like he's actually pretty good at holding my, you know, my 2 racks, of course. But you know, Petraeus is the ladder warrior of Europe. Like, from what I've heard, there is no one that actually plays more ladder than this guy, and he's been showing up, he's been practicing a lot. This is the first season he was able to actually make it in to Premier League. This is his first WCS Premier appearance, period. And this, of course, going up against someone like Bunny, who's made so many deep runs in so many tournaments, it's a bit of a daunting challenge.
Let me list some of the things, too, that this guy actually does. Okay, in the past 2 months, because really all that matters is the last 2 months of statistics. That's how well you're playing, that's how well you feel with your matchups, etc. In the last 2 months, normally players are going like, 7-3 in matchups. So in TvZ, they're going 7-3 and stuff like that. This guy is 16-5. That's a lot of games for Zerg, against Zerg. Against Protoss, he's 24 wins and 4 losses. And then for Terran, he's 13 wins and 6. That's a lot of cups to be doing, man. That's a lot of show matches to be a part of. This guy is a part of the online community in terms of tournaments, in terms of show matches. He has played in a lot of minor things, but what does he do in the major things? This is basically kind of the first time he's on that big main stage.
Yeah, this is one of those matchups that gets really cool because Petraeus is someone that there's not a crazy amount of offline content to study. You don't have these big on-stage performances. Sure, plays in a lot of online matches and whatnot, but so does Bunny at the same hand. These two guys were warming up yesterday. We came in for rehearsals at the studio. I sit down, I'm watching both of them. They're both playing games. I don't notice it until after, but then Kane asked me, he's like, why are you guys playing versus each other? Like, they hit each other on ladder, and they don't even care. They're just like, no, it's good practice. It's like, you understand you have a match the next day? Like, the way that they described it was they play each other so much on European ladder already that they don't feel like there's any secrets they have from each other. It's all about who can actually just perform when they're put on stage. Neither of them were worried about hiding strategies because they've played so many games, they've seen everything.
That's so funny, man. I mean, a lot of different mind games or double mind games or double bluffs can happen.
We have to go like 3 mind games deep on this one.
I see that he's going for a Zergling Baneling all in, but he's faking it. I know he's not, and he's like, I'm going to fake, double fake, and actually do the Zergling Baneling all in. It's like, well, he just did a Zergling Baneling all in. No, it's a Zergling Baneling double fake.
Yeah, I don't know. It can get really weird. We are loaded in to the first game of this series. As you guys can see, we're going to kick things off on Echo. In the top left position, we have the Red Terran player representing Denmark in Team Liquid. He's Bunny, who finished top 4 in Season 1 of the World Championship Series. His opponent in the southeast, the Blue Zerg representing New Zealand in My Insanity. He's Petraeus.
Now, if we're talking about who has more on the line in terms of who wants to be super successful, both of them obviously want to get that first place. But Bunny, he is ranked 22 right now for WCS points. He only needs about 400 to 600 more points. I know it's shifted because of DreamHack, but 400 to 600 more points to actually be in contention with the top 16. That's really close.
Yeah, he's pretty close.
Yeah, that is 5th through 8th that he has to get through, around there. So he's shooting for absolute top.
He just needs the repeat to be in a very comfortable position.
That's right. But it's very realistic that we do have Bunny in the top 16 for the World Finals at BlizzCon.
Yeah, he has a better opportunity than a lot of the other non-Korean players. The only other guys that have gotten super close in the recent tournaments that we've seen, well, I mean, in WCS Season 1, you have players like Showtime and Kane get pretty far, Snoot as well. Who Bunny had to knock down to actually get that far. So it gets tricky as far as the non-Korean department goes. Petraeus hasn't had the best showings in his offline performances recently. He showed up. I know he played in DreamHack, but he didn't make it to the playoff stage. Had a bit of a rough time, and Bunny's still been competing across the board in all tournaments, including things like DreamHack and Gfinity.
Yeah, and that's why it's so interesting. Like, we're focusing on Bunny. He's like the really big guy, but Petraeus, just to let you know, they had a fight night recently for the Gravity Show match. It was April 9th that they had that match, and Petraeus actually came out ahead by a score of 3-2. So as much as we're focusing on Bunny, it's like so close. This is the group where you really don't know who's going to come. We saw Jim obviously be a huge star about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and then kind of settled down. He's a big wild card. Of course, Kane made it to the round of 8 last year. And now you got 2 really fantastic players, and I think Petraeus is overlooked a lot of the times because he's not in that spotlight like Bunny is.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see where Bunny has taken his Terran versus Zerg, especially. Petraeus opening up with a reasonably quick Zergling push. This is actually quite smart versus a Command Center first, which he may have been expecting from his previous matches against Bunny on this map, because he's just now starting this bunker. He's only going to have 1 Marine out by the time 6 Lings hit his base, and a second one about halfway done. So he has the potential to do a lot of damage. He can't obviously kill the Command Center because he built it so quickly, but he could push him away off of it, and if he doesn't react fast enough to block his ramp, he could even get in the main and kill more workers.
Oh, this is scary, man. Because there's no, obviously right there's no depot, but he gets the wall off with the factory. That's a very intelligent way to do it. Still, Bunny, I mean, it's annoying for sure, but he still has all of his main essential items. Of course, his Orbital Command Center is one of the most important parts about this, but, you know, moving down to that bottom, and also, do you pull SCVs here, or do you make more Marines? Because if you make more Marines...
He's going to bring some SCVs. It's his choice move here. He already killed 2 Lings, so he should be able to reclaim this. But I think for what Petraeus was doing, he got what he wanted, you know? The mules actually both got dropped in the main, so it's going to hurt his mining out time as well.
But look at that. The reactor goes down a Marine too late, or 30 seconds too late.
Yeah,
and that's
true.
a big problem.
It doesn't line up very well with the factory at all. He'll have enough time to build 1 Hellion straight off of this factory, and it's not as optimal, it's not as optimized as you would like it to be when you're playing against a Zerg.
So if I'm Zerg in this spot, normally you get like 4 queens in the early stages.
Yeah, I mean, he opened gasless, so he can play ball like that.
I would go just 3 though. There's no reason to get that extra queen because you know the Hellion count is going to be delayed.
Well, he's at 3 queens, Greetorp. I think he's thinking along the same
Stay
lines
there,
as you.
get your 3rd base, you're good to go. He's double gassing, as we can see.
Yeah, so he's droning up that natural. And because he also got to see everything that was coming, like he saw the factory timing, he can roughly assume whether or not, based on the way that it started, if that second gas was going to be an issue because he has the Overlord that's going to see this 3rd command center. So Petraeus should recognize worst he'll have to deal with is a couple Hellions that are be hitting later than usual, and that means he can safely build those drones. He's getting a Roach Warren too, and adding on Evolution Chambers. I'm wondering if the Roach Warren is defensive or if he actually intends to make them a part of his core unit composition.
Yeah, a lot of times people do go for like the 5 to 7 roaches, as you're talking about, the more defensive, trying to just say, okay, if there's any Hellbound pushes, it's going to be slapped away very easily. But, you know, going into the mid-game phase is Mass Roaches. We were actually just talking about this before. Yeah. Mass Roaches, it has a good power spike at mid-game, but it dies off at end-game.
You know what? I think he's going to bring that. He started the +1 attack, and this must be so confusing because Petraeus knows that Bunny will also occasionally play mech, and I'm wondering now, Petraeus did have that Overlord near the ramp. He saw the extra barracks that was being built on the reactor. This is actually super useful information. Because he sees he's building extra barracks, he should be able to write off the possibility of there being mech. The fact that he's still researching the +1 Roach attack tells me he is considering going for that big timing push because he even starts Roach speed.
Yeah, and there are a couple indicators for Bunny to see this. The 3rd base, ordinarily it's going down anywhere from 5:30 to 6:30. It went down a lot later than that, around like 6:30 to 7 minutes. When you see something like that, you're thinking 2 base mutas or roaches. One of the two.
The Zerg, if the Zerg delays their 3rd, it's because they're pushing for some kind of tech, Roach speed or Mutalisks. By opening up with this many Marines, he has enough bio to deal with a fast Mutalisk play because he didn't waste time with going for Banshees or even getting a really fast 1-1. Bunny's setup here, his +1 attack actually starts significantly later. He has the 2nd engineering bay, but he's building a tank. He's trying to compensate for this.
Man.
The tank is going to really allow him to isolate this, since the position between the natural and the 3rd can be walled off into one choke that you can easily defend both bases from.
It's crazy that this one production facility is the main counter to what we're seeing from Petraeus. This is an 11-minute 1-1 timing with just a huge swell of roaches. You're going to just see a non-stop push. And with the siege tanks popping out here, I mean, it gets out of hand very quickly. You put it on the top of the ledge inside the main base, and it actually protects this huge, alleyway right here going into the 3rd. So there's a lot of capabilities for you to defend against any of these shenanigans.
Now, thinking about what Petraeus does with this opening as he pushes the natural ramp, he sees, okay, we've got a siege tank here. Petraeus hasn't actually built an insane number of roaches.
Nope.
The goal of 1-1 pushes like this are to try to delay the 3rd base of the Terran as much as you can. Some Hellions are going to run by into this 3rd base, though.
Okay, doing a little bit of damage here.
And he's got the Spire and the Bailiness on this, so it doesn't seem like he wants to commit to roaches.
Wow, very interesting.
I'm wondering if he opened up blindly like this, expecting mech, and then he's
Yeah.
like, I don't really want to make a mass roach swell,
yeah.
which can sometimes it can work against just straight up bio.
A lot of times these roach openings are to punish super fast third bases where you
Yeah.
take the command center at 8 minutes, and then if they actually try to defend all the locations, you're just gonna die. But Bunny doesn't actually push out to his base. He says, okay, let's just defend up on 2 bases, or at least 2 base position, and then slowly take our third base a little bit later on. And, these guys are adjusting accordingly. So he says, okay, well, since you haven't gotten your third base so early as Zerg, I don't have to go so many roaches. He's switching into mutas right now, and he's switching up also to the stereotypical Ling, Baneling, couple of roaches, and throws in those mutas there.
Yeah, so he's moving into a very standard composition. Petraeus is not the guy that I think of to try to play Roach Hydra against Bio, and Bunny wants to do the classic Terran push. You want to shut down the 4th base of the Zerg while you're taking your 3rd base. And at this point, the counterattack from Petraeus actually looks really nice. There's no defenses,
There's no
no wall.
bunker.
He runs straight into the 3rd. SCVs and mules are going to have to be pulled. Even if he doesn't kill that many workers, he's denying a huge amount of income.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's really brutal right there. What is able to cancel the 4th base, which definitely does help. You want to constantly do that as Terran. Keep them on 3rd base and play the war of attrition as best as possible, knowing you have the better compositions a little bit later on. But
these
oh my
banelings
gosh,
are really late too. He
great
cancels off of
target
them.
fire. He target fired all the banelings.
Yeah, he doesn't have that many banelings to actually practice with. Combat shield
God.
finishes up. The banelings are coming in. They do have the speed. I mean, at this point, he could even just try to pick the Marines up.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, boy.
These banelings, oh, that's actually a pretty decent hit, but the second one is a dud. Overall, I think that's a great campaign for his first attack,
Yeah.
denying the 4th base. Obviously,
It gets tricky because he took some damage at the
That's true.
3rd, but I think delaying that 4th base was more valuable than the workers loss because he still has the opportunity to drop more mules. He has his +2 upgrades coming in, and because of the Roach upgrade, Petraeus doesn't have like a crazy lead as far as his upgrades go. He's only barely ahead for the Carapace, and he's even on melee. This Marine denying the 4th base is really nice. I think taking the left side 4th will always be tricky because there are, just because of the rush distance between the 3rd base of Bunny and that potential 4th of Petraeus.
yeah, I definitely think this is the hardest time for Terran at this stage in the game. Yes, you have the most timings, but I think Zerg really hits hard a lot earlier than Terran ordinarily. But man, this aggressive push, splits are going to have to be made for him to defend this.
I'm really surprised Petraeus is going for this push. He doesn't have any creep spread to fall back on, nor did he, I think, win that fight convincingly enough to really consider making that pushback. Probably just felt some pressure because of his 4th base being delayed so much.
I don't know if that was something like he's faking an all-in there, because, as you said, it doesn't make too much sense for him to do like some Baneling swell across the map. But as we can see, like, we don't really have a huge muta gathering, do we? Like, the muta count isn't that high, and he's sticking on Zerg and Baneling. Like, I don't see anything in the production tab that tells me he wants to keep going for a heavy count of mutas, although he is starting right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's using his Mutalisks in a way that can really utilize the map best. And this map in particular, it's very difficult to hold your mineral lines and gases with just one missile turret. But, trying to catch those Mutalisks off to the side. 2-2 finishing up, or at least the Carapace, +2 attack will line up with Bunny's 2-2. So upgrade-wise, the Terran player actually won't be substantially ahead for any period of time. We don't have an Infestation Pit, so we're still quite a ways off from 3-3.
This is scary, though, man. This is really scary. This 2-2 timing is going to be so hard to deal with, because if you look at the supplies right now, Terran actually has an advantage. He's currently supply capped.
Yeah, Petraeus doesn't have that many Banelings either, and that makes things really tricky because he's been building mutas, and now starting the Infestation Pit, he doesn't have many Banelings at all. I don't think 14 against 60 Marines. That's going to be pretty tricky. If there's one thing that Bunny's good at, it's target fire sniping Banelings.
Yeah, and on this map, because creep spread is so difficult to actually do, you can see the 4th base, there's no creep spread outside of this. So you're able to kite for days.
This counter is so nice, though. He shuts down the 4th command center, which is really, really important. There's not a crazy amount of Widow Mines, so he needs to actually focus on this army. A couple of the Banelings do get some pretty reasonable trades against the Marines. He finishes up a few more.
That umbrella is so nice. When you just spread out all the Marines, you're able to receive the Banelings so easily, and because there's nothing there to...
I actually think this makes it okay for him to lose this 4th base because he's cleaned out the 3rd. Bunny is not mining off of his 3rd base. That main is so low on resources, and Petraeus also was at the same time taking this base on the left. left side, so this can be his fourth, and now the creep spread creates an awkward situation where if Bunny wants to actually push Petraeus, he has to walk all the way around back towards where his third is, and then reposition himself to attack from the left side.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that you need to do on this map is clear out that center.
Petraeus is just going to try to grab him. He's going to try to catch him here. The links from one side, Banelings from the other. The Marines are so low, Greetorp. He moves in, and he's just completely swallowing this army, but the Mutas take some heavy hits from the Thors.
Yeah, the Banelings did clean up, so he can't continue there because that's a ton of medevacs to keep up with the Zerg DPS. So you can see that Petraeus needs to get out, is going to get his army back up again and try to solidify his fourth base. You can see this is much better creep spread than his other fourth base. It's still going to be hard. But as you said, that movement that Terran has to do, they need to be able to take that center control to move a lot faster.
It gave Petraeus a lot of time, and he still doesn't have a crazy amount of Banelings. Just 6 now, finishing up a few more. He's up to 15. But Petraeus does need one big fight here. He needs to take a magical engagement if he wants to be able to stop this army, because Bunny just has a ridiculous amount of production.
Yep, and the Thor in the background going to help out a ton too. We're going to see, I mean, we're just trying to weather the storm right now if we are Zerg. And a great surround actually from behind too. Baneling's going to roll in. Are they going to be able to get connections? Yeah, they actually overwhelm the Terran pretty nicely here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The thing is, Petraeus, by having this base still alive,
wow.
There's no fourth for Bunny. If Petraeus can continue to defend, he'll be in a position where this game just looks better and better for him, but Bunny's reinforcements are doing the job.
Yeah, I mean, that long line of
count.
units that's helping out, and the medevacs keeping alive all the units that are left over. GG gets called out, and LiquidBunny will take game number 1. That was so close, Nate. I mean, it was just back and forth. Fourth bases for third bases. It was really crazy, and any single battle could have decided the game.
Yeah, it gets really tricky in that scenario because as the Terran player, when you make pushes like this and you choose not to build a fourth base, you're pretty much all in on killing the fourth of the Zerg. And he did a good job of bouncing back and forth between Petraeus' 2 fourth bases. The Baneling count never really got to a crazy high number. And honestly, there weren't that many Widow Mines either in the army for Bunny. So I feel like if he... And I know he wanted to have Mutalisks to target down the medevacs and to help bring down any residual forces, but it still gets very, very tricky. Like, Petraeus sets himself up to get this catching the army, but the reinforcement line for Bunny comes in, and he keeps all the medevacs alive throughout all this fight, and the Thor just hits these Mutas so hard.
Yeah, and as you said, the medevacs staying alive, actually the medevacs not being targeted down by the Mutas definitely hurts, but, I guess it's the style that Petraeus wants to play, because you can actually allocate 2 different ways with your Mutas. Just clean up everything on the ground and then leave the medevacs left over just to have as much of your army maintained as possible, or you can go for the medevac kills, and as soon as your Banelings die, you back up, you rinse and repeat, and try to make it so that your opponent can't push. I actually think killing the medevacs is slightly better, but we know that because the fourth wasn't taken for Bunny.
Yeah. The thing is, like I said, it comes down to whether you choose to take that fourth base as a Terran. Bunny chose that he wanted to get a fourth. He had the command center on the way. The counterattacks from Petraeus were phenomenal, to say the least. All Petraeus needed to do in this game, and it makes it sound almost condescending at that point, was just defend one big push and have some forces left over to clean up the rally. Because if he gets a couple more of his Banelings onto the big clumps of Marines at the start of that engagement in the southwest, without the 4th command center, without the SCVs that he lost, Petraeus is in a position where he doesn't need to actually counterattack because he has so many more resources available to him that he's just going to be able to build a bigger army.
And with all the trades, too, of the 3rd base and the 4th base, none of them were really banking. So it's not like the reinforcement wave is going to be super powerful. Yeah. So really, I mean, we could also say that it all came down to every single fight. If you were able to get a good engagement and a good surround, then it's going to determine who's the victor. And I just felt like Bunny positioned himself better, especially with the 4th base on the mid-right-hand side. That's where he got the most value. All those Banelings being cleaned up for basically nothing.
I can't quite recall if Petraeus started the Hive, but he built the Infestation Pit too, and he never, there was no point in that game we were going to see Ultralisks or even +3 upgrades or Adrenal Glands. So the investment into the Infestation Pit definitely doesn't help. That 100 gas, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's 4 more Banelings, and if those hit 16 Marines, it's a pretty big game changer, especially if he started Hive, which, the 200 gas into that. There's potentially a lot more firepower he could have with an army in that position.
I mean, players like Violet are big proponents of just staying on that lair tech.
Yeah.
And just getting huge swarms of Zergling-based compositions and flooding your opponent. So even though you're at 170 supply, I'm always at 200 because I have a ton of Zerglings out there, and I can just make sure my Baneling hits connect because my Zerglings are always surrounding me.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting game, to say the least. I really like the use of the counterattacks, and It seemed like Petraeus also slowed himself down a lot at the start of the game with that roach opening. I really get the impression that he was expecting some form of either early aggression or just in general a mech strategy. But, well, he'll have to try to recover things moving into game number 2. We will be moving to a pretty damn good mech map, Greetorp. It's Bonnie Research Station.
What's our name? Bonnie Research Station, one of the more interesting macro maps. You said it's really good for mech, but, you know, you could do bio as well. Dropping gets really out of hand very, very quickly. Anyway, spawning in the bottom middle position as the blue Zerg, it is my Insanity's Petraeus.
Shout out to all the Kiwis tuning in. Everybody from Australia, not usually the easiest times to watch for you guys. And he's up against this man in the north, representing Denmark and Team Liquid. He is Bunny.
I will say, though, that that game was fantastic. Just constant back and forth,
It was
constant
as
counterattacks.
textbook TvZ as you really get. You know, it's about the Terran gets the third, pushes the fourth. For the Zerg player, it's about holding the fourth, or, and I would still say to a degree, it can be okay to lose it if you do so much damage as Petraeus did, because you're really preventing Bunny from building any type of bank. And, you know, the only thing that hurt him as much was just Bunny took the engagement so well, because he didn't have a bank to really fall back on if Petraeus had gotten any, like, miracle detonations with his Banelings.
I mean, Huck was saying it actually last game, how some Zergs are really, the very, very high-level Zergs are valuing the creep spread. And I think creep spread actually affected Petraeus the most in that last game.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times you build into the direction where you want to take your fourth base, and we did see it being allocated towards the center. The center is still good.
Yeah, that's
control
true.
helps.
Yeah, he had a lot of creep spread over the center of the map, pushing towards where Bunny's fourth base would have been, but he never actually got a lot of creep by either of his fourth base locations.
Yeah.
That definitely made getting positioning more difficult.
Center control always gives you the ability to traverse across the map, and normally you're the one that needs to do that because of drop
It's
plays.
nice for the counterattacks
Yes.
too.
Oh,
but
yeah, that's very true.
helps slingshot those Zerglings into the other base faster. Bunny's going for command center first, into gas, then barracks. This is like such a, I like to think of this as like a pretty fruity build. It's very wobbly versus players that will get aggressive. Like, it's not a good ladder build, I don't think, but he's not expecting Petraeus to like 10 pool him, so he feels comfortable doing this.
It must be, in my opinion, it must be just their interactions with each other.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, you also don't want to say, oh, do I want to just lose to 11 racks or 12 racks? And it's not like a fast racks. It's just, oh, they made a barracks instead of command center first.
Yeah. It can be really risky. Like, if Petraeus had done, for example, the same, if Bunny did this build on the last map, then Petraeus' 6 lings could actually win in the game, because that barracks is delayed just a little bit, and your factory is still done nowhere near in time. It's just a little bit of a faster factory compared to usual. And this, it's not, like, this build isn't bad by any means as far as the actual setup goes. It's just weaker versus early aggression. Like I said, worse for ladder, better for an opponent that you don't expect an attack from.
I love the adjustments, though, man. Look at Petraeus' main real quick. You can actually take a look at the gas count. I know, I'm talking about gas. But we're not up at 100 gas just yet. He actually took all the workers off to make sure he has 16 on minerals. That way he has the maximum amount of income, and he can get his third base up as soon as possible. It's these tiny little adjustments that a lot of times we're not able to see, that these pro players are just getting these small little 1% edges or 0.5% edges, and they add up. It's a game of inches. That's how they get the advantage over their opponents.
Yeah, I really wonder if Petraeus, as these lings poke the ramp, if he recognizes, he's like, you know, that factory is actually a good 15 or so seconds ahead of when I'd normally see it. And, you know, fast factories, Greetorp, they lend themselves to fast other things like this starport.
That's true. I mean, there's a huge range that he has to defend against right now. As you said, starport, so it could be medevac drops, Banshee play. It could be medevac plus Marines plus
And Bunny
Hellbats.
does all of those
All of
things
it,
too.
yeah.
So you can't look at, you're gonna be like, oh, Bunny built the starport. Oh, it's definitely Hellion Banshee, or it's definitely Marine Hellion and Marine Hellbats. Like, no, Bunny's done all of them in broadcasted matches live. You can't really discard any possible aggressive play that he could bring to you. And Petraeus is going to go straight up to his lair now as the Zergling speed gets closer to completing.
Yeah, I mean, that really says a lot. The more predictable players that just go for, 3 command center every single time, I don't have to worry about some sort of push. I don't have to get roaches or a large Zergling count out. But now it's like, okay, it could be Hellbats, it could be all these different things, and you could be mind gaming yourself. a lot of the
Yeah.
times. And that's what Bunny does to you. Because you've seen like so many possible variants of the same opening, you're like, well, gosh, we have to defend against Hellbat drops. And he might do that by going, spine crawlers in the main. That's wasted
Yeah,
inefficiencies.
that's not going to work against
No.
Banshees, and that
No.
is Banshee play is what Bunny's
As
going
I
for.
say that, look at that. Spine crawler in the main base. Is that efficient right now?
Well-
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
Last game you called what he needed to do pretty well, and then he did it, Greetor. But this game, you called what he shouldn't have done, and he did it too. You've cursed him.
Oh,
That
man.
spine in the main won't be particularly. I mean, he still could use it because Bunny's going to build an armory behind
Yeah.
this, but the Hellbats themselves really aren't bothered as much by that spine crawler, just a regular Marine Hellion push. And the Banshee as well, it comes down a lot to the positioning of where is that spine when the attack actually hits. Is he going to try to move the spine crawler down? I think ideally the Zerg probably wants to keep it on top of the main ramp.
Yeah, I think so. Just to make sure you can back up to something,
Yeah.
and then your queens can kind of tank.
Oh,
you
he's
can also
bringing it-
transfuse. Oh,
He's going to bring it down. This see, I only find this tricky because if he gets onto the ramp with the Hellbats, then no
Oh,
amount
yeah.
of Lings will ever break that position.
Yeah.
And here comes the Banshee. There's not even a Spore in play.
No, there is not, and this is what we were talking about before. Now there is that Overseer to help things out, but now the queens will be slightly displaced. Will the
Yeah, they have to
Hellbats
run
actually-
around. They can't
Yeah.
place their injects as comfortably as they normally would.
The creep spread isn't absolutely there, connecting the main base and the natural, which affects him.
Ooh, 2 more factories. So Bunny's is going to go mech out of this
Oh,
build, and this
I
is
love it.
this is going to be very interesting. Bunny is someone that is not too unfamiliar with turtle mech play. He's going to go for this big push, and depending on how far ahead he gets from it or what he makes happen, he could take this very long.
Yeah, this is pretty scary if you are Zerg in this spot, but good transfuses on the spine crawler so far. He's going to back up and lose some queens, though. The Banshee in the air is actually affecting a lot and doing a ton of damage here, putting out a lot of DPS.
Yeah, these queens
Hellbats,
the queens weren't even focusing the Banshee.
yeah, they were focusing the Hellbats, which is not what you want to have happen. Regardless, mutas will pop out. These are pretty fast mutas as well, 9 minutes and 30 seconds, and he's been able to get his third base, but at what cost?
I love that he keeps the Banshee in the third, and he's like, okay, you can kill the Banshee on my Hellbats going to the main, or you can pull these over, and my Banshee's still at your third base, poking away or looking for anything else that it can kill. The thing about these types of builds, even though you might be able to say to yourself, it's like, oh, well, Bunny doesn't have any units that actually shoot up. Yeah, but the time it takes for the Mutalisks to kill everything once they pop out has given Bunny enough time to throw up missile turrets and start Thors.
But, I still like this build coming out from Petraeus. It's very scary. It's super quick for these mutas to be popped out right now, and a lot of times Terran builds don't actually prepare for this quick of expansions. Also, he went mech. He didn't go Marines. So you don't have the natural counter just yet. You need a higher count of Thors. That's why we're seeing a much, much later third base to be actually positioned. He is lifting it over, but I highly doubt he'll be able to maintain that third for a bit.
Taking the third that early would be a bit of a miracle play. Maybe he's hoping the Banshee will pull the Mutalisks back. So far, Petraeus says no. He recognizes there's very few actual mech units here, and if the Mutas fight with the Lings, with a low Hellbat count, he could force him to pull SCVs to defend against this. He's going to actually try that. Here come the Lings running into the main base.
They're going to get into the main...
I guess he wants to run to the natural?
Okay, and this is a good scout, too. I mean, he's accomplishing two different things. He's able to see the factory count, see how invested, are there potential all-ins. He sees 3 factories. He's like, okay, I'm all right.
SCV's not in position to actually defend that missile turret, so he can try to play around those slow Thors. As that, I will say, though, the commitment of forces here, Petraeus doesn't look like he's going to actually be able to stop this third from being secured. He lost all the units he could have used to overwhelm it.
I mean, we haven't seen any more units, though, placed that... Oh, this... Okay.
Yeah, Big
so
Daddy
the one
Thor.
or excuse me, the Mutas can't actually engage on the Thors.
Oh, he's going to split around. He's going to go for it. He's coming in. The second Thor is not in position. SCVs are being pulled. There are 3 more Thors coming in here, though, and I think Petraeus has overstayed his welcome a little bit here.
Yeah, this is exactly the problem. Of course, the Thors are going to come in, but
Wait.
the SCVs will maintain the Thor alive.
Greetor, he started stim and +1 infantry.
What?
He's making the switcherino into bio.
Wow, this is so cool, man. we have seen this before, but it doesn't come out
We don't see
nearly
it
as
often.
often.
No,
At
that's,
like 1% of games, I think, in TvZs, this will ever happen.
Just think about what this does to Petraeus' build order, right? Petraeus, who recognizes like, oh, mech, let's rush up to Hive, get roaches, get roach upgrades, roach speed, all things roach.
Uh-oh.
These links
Oh
actually
my
make it into the
God.
main. This is so important for him to recognize that these are barracks building and to see that Tech Lab barracks researching stim. This is crucial for Petraeus to know that he needs to get upgrades like Baneling speed and continue to upgrade his Zerglings as well.
Did he actually click on the buildings, though? Because with just his vision, he might just assume that they're factories. I have no clue. Based on the production tab, I still don't know if he's been able to tell.
He did have vision of that tech lab that
Yeah.
had the stim researching, so maybe it's enough information. I'm not entirely sure. Bunny did lose another Banshee, harassing some workers over at the natural of Petraeus. But this is a great 1-2 punch build. You know, in the old days when players would go Swarm Host as a response to mech, you know, Bio was just so nimble that if you weren't expecting it, that switch would just outright kill most Zergs. And I would still proffer that if no Baneling speed gets researched and Bunny maxes out with Marines, there's no composition that Petraeus can build that will actually be able to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, roaches would come close if Bunny makes a mistake and pushes out too fast.
Yeah, I
That's
think Bunny,
the only
you just gotta
case.
chill, wait till max.
Exactly. If he, it's all in Bunny's court right now, given the compositions. But we have to check Vipers on the way out right now. They can help with Blinding Cloud.
It seems he wants to go into Ultras, but I actually think that with the setup that Bunny has, he should be in a position to make, like he could actually make his first push before Ultralisks are really in play, or at least well upgraded Ultralisks, which allows Marines to actually deal damage against them.
And, oh gosh, I mean, with the, you know,
So
I'm really questioning.
recognized yet that it is a bio switch though? I feel like he's still seen a lot of tanks and Thors, but maybe not all of the Marines.
I think both of them are creating just these all-purpose armies, and it's stuff like this that I really like at high-level play, where it's like, well, do you have enough experience to know exactly what's going on, where I can just go this weird composition and you'll be able to defend against it?
Yeah,
Losing these mutas, obviously, not a good thing, but he does find out the composition exactly, and he sees, wow, that's a lot of Marines.
If Petraeus didn't know before, he certainly knows now. He still has not opted to get Baneling speed. He's just going straight for Ultras, starting chitinous plating, starting adrenal glands, and 3 Ultralisks are on the way. But with so many siege tanks, and especially so many Thors, like these are units that you can just focus fire down and they will actually wreck Ultralisks, especially in low numbers. Without Banelings to clean up the Marines, those bad boys will keep any number of Zerglings or Mutalisks off of those very expensive mech army. I guess it comes down a lot to he needs to just get good Blinding Clouds on top of this. That's like the only way he can make this work. He just now starts Baneling speed.
Blinding Clouds and also pulling the Thors as fast as possible to make sure that those Ultras aren't targeted down, because if you actually right-click and attack the Ultras, they are not staying alive soon fast at all. But you know, it's just really tough to call these battles because
the tanks
there's
are already
such weird
spread out
armies.
too. The tanks are already spread.
You do have abducts though, so anything could happen here. Looks like the fight is going to happen. That's a lot of Queens. Roach is going to rush forward.
Blinding Cloud's the main army. A couple of the tanks in the back are still able to fire, and you know that's the power of Bio. He can just run out of the Blinding Clouds. The siege tanks and the Thors are cleaning up the Ultralisks. The Queens are coming in for the transfuses. Okay, actually, the transfuses are going very nicely on those Ultras.
Oh yeah, look at that. I mean, 2 of the 3 Ultras still exist. Finally going down right now. Is there enough power to the punch?
Well, he's
though?
stemming pretty hard. I mean, these Ultras are starting to clean up with single cleaves, and
Wow.
Petraeus actually manages to push this back. Exceedingly impressive from him.
Beautiful play, and from that, Petraeus is already starting off of Hive Tech. I mean, that was the first main engagement that we've really seen.
And this is amazing because he can make the switch now into Broodlords. He's got the Greater Spire on the way. He still, I believe, retained his Vipers. He had 1 Viper retained from that fight, but he also retains a few of his Ultralisks. And those alone, now that they have chitinous plating and potentially further upgrades, are still going to force a heavy commitment to those, you know, the anti-armor units, the Marauders, the tanks, the Thors, and that could make things tricky when Broodlords come out.
Bunny's doing the right thing, though, starting up with the drops. Whenever you're dealing with Ultralisks, you have to start trading out your army for better composition than just Marines. Marines are not good up against Ultras. I found that out the hard way, Nate.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you need that Marauder count. And if you don't have that Marauder count, you don't want to just go for an army and fight because you're just going to be behind.
And you know what Marauders aren't good against? Broodlords. So Greater Spire getting closer and closer to completing. We still do not have any Corruptors, though. So without Corruptors, he He has the option to do it, but it will take him some time. He's just starting 4 now, of course. Those corruptors take a little bit of time to come out themselves, and you have another 34 seconds to actually get the Broodlords out. But it's a slow army composition, which, as you said, makes these drops even more important.
Yeah, so it really comes down to how well can Petraeus defend against these and be able to, at the same time, tech to the money composition. Right now, the timer is going to be on Bunny. He is not necessarily at a deficit by any means, but if he lets the game get out of control, he's very easily going to lose this game. Great abduct.
Nice abduct.
Kills the one with the full, fully
sick.
loaded. Unbelievably nice.
He's like, boost away. He's like, no, you're boosting to me. So he sees the corruptors. This is actually really important. You know, this is not, you know, this is late enough corruptors. You know Ultralisks are on the map. Bunny should immediately be thinking, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, Broodlords, I do not have anything to handle this. He starts up 2 Vikings immediately, but the starport count is only at 1, so he doesn't have the ability to produce Vikings and Ravens, which are ideally what you want to stop Broodlords.
This has to be the trigger. When you see those corruptors out there, you're saying to yourself, I don't know if he has Greater Spire yet, but it sure could be out very, very soon. I need to push and hope that he doesn't have them just yet. At the very least, I get a trade, I can get Vikings out and be able to deal with the Broodlords. At the worst, he might lose the game, but if he's at this composition and Broodlords pop out, he's already lost the game.
Yeah, well, the problem here becomes now that the siege tanks are totally nullified by the Broodlords. They're going to cause the siege tanks to fire upon Bunny's own units. He still has to deal with these Zerglings that are just running behind him. These Zerglings don't need to be playmakers. They just need to distract Bunny, pull his attention away from doing drops or trying to attack, stop the creep spread. And all of this is just buying time for Petraeus. Bunny's just now starting up 3 more additional starports. He does have +3 mech weapons on the way, which will also benefit those Vikings. He just needs to avoid a fight against both the Broodlords and the Ultras at once. And even just these abducts, it's like, yep, okay, I can pick off a few units here and there.
And why do you think Petraeus is like backing off? Is he waiting? Oh, it could be for this +3
I think Petraeus recognizes that this army is actually so heavily maxed out that there's no supply for Bunny to build Vikings with. So all Petraeus really needs to do is just get whatever army composition he thinks is enough to stop a Viking-less Terran.
Definitely makes sense. As infestors are starting to pop out here. Yeah. 5 were in production.
I mean, if you get a fungal on bio when you have Ultras and Banelings, like that's it, man. That's it.
Right.
He catches this drop. 3 full medevacs. He's just going to force him to deposit here. He's like, nope, not today, buddy. And a lot of units do get cleaned up. He could try to make his way towards that natural. He has a drop over at the west side, so Bunny's doing everything in his power to buy himself time in this game, to create opportunities and space. Good abduct, grabs a medevac, again another one.
Ooh.
Doesn't focus it though, barely slips away.
And it is going to be able to drop, so it does some damage against the bottom right natural here. Actually picking up this Evo chamber would help.
Yeah, those evolution chambers are very, very valuable. That's the +3 attack researching on that left one. He does not want to lose that.
And I like this. I mean, Bunny is doing everything right to get back into this game.
He's trading supply, too.
Yes, that's the #1 thing. He's trading supply pretty efficiently. A lot of people are just like, okay, let's attack into it now that they have Broodlords out. No, you have to still do it carefully.
He threw away the medevacs and Marines, and, you know, not to say callously threw away. He did it so he would open supply to build more Thors and more Vikings.
Yes.
And the Vikings are what he needs to deal with the Broodlords.
Yes, and it's still a rough situation for Bunny, though.
I think he could even throw away SCVs, to be honest. 67 at this point in the game is a little excessive.
It comes down to this one engagement, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's all this game really matters, because the armies are just so heavily invested. It's hard to rematch.
These armies are so big, replacing them is going to be close to impossible. They have enough bank for an extra wave or 2, but not to replenish everything. And the Vikings actually catch the Broodlords out of position, snipes one of them. 2 Broodlords picked off for free. Really nice grabs by Bunny.
Nice little tiny advantages that Bunny is able to maintain through here, or at least get back, I would say.
Bunny starts a fusion core. He's building tanks and Vikings at the same time. He knows that the seesaw, the pendulum of Ultralisk Broodlord is still swinging and could very well go back straight into pure ground units, although he does have 6 more Broodlords queued up. So he's sticking on keeping this in a well-rounded, well-balanced army. 6 Ultralisks, and now looks like 8 Broodlords. Very, very strong army.
Bunny's maintaining this this constant pressure. Actually, the left-hand side drop is going to be, it looks like, bungled and not killed.
Should invested in that second bungle, man. Marines are going to get to unload. Might grab a worker or 2, and he's still just...
Look at that.
He's still freeing up supply and grabbing the creep spread.
Yeah, like, reducing that creep spread actually stops any of the pushes. And I am a little bit, like, confused why Petraeus isn't actually trying to go for the gold here and just push in. But again, Bunny has efficient trades over in the bottom right-hand corner.
Look at what Bunny's building now. 5 Ravens at a time, getting Corvid Reactor. What the Ravens are going to give him is point defense drone against the Corruptors, but also Seeker Missile on those slow Broodlords. Broodlords and the Queens, especially if the Queens ever push off creep, like the Seeker Missiles are going to completely annihilate them. Those air units clump up so hard.
Yep. And that's a big problem if you're investing a lot of supply into that air. Of course, we already know that there's a good amount of supply there. I mean, he does have a lot of ultras, some.
He's building 7 command centers.
He's making a wall. He knows this is going to super late game.
This is Bunny's Great Wall. This is pretty hardcore.
Okay, it really comes down to this Broodlord. I mean,
I guess the command centers are going to block too. They're pretty useful in that regard as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, man. Like this is just such a weird game at this point. I'm not sure what these
the infested Terrans get thrown up to bait out the first shots and get a little bit of vision. Now the Vikings are stepping up, trying to hit these Broodlords. But Petraeus needs to nail those transfuses.
There, one command center goes, but there's a lot of hit points in all of
He's
those.
moving spines in too
Wow,
with this.
he's going to abduct a ton of units here, get some Vikings, get some Ravens, and actually reduce the capacity for a lot of bursts to be done. You can see the Seeker Missile's not really doing that much.
Units like those Thor, that Thor just got completely obliterated, and that was by the siege tanks, because there were a bunch of Broodlings around it, and those tanks do not discriminate on what they shoot at, or where what they shoot at is next to. So the Ultras clean up a few of these Marauders on the left side. This creep spread still managing to get dangerously close to Bunny's base as well. Battlecruiser, first one queued up.
Oh, nice little abduct there.
Actually,
still not able to kill anything.
I actually think that Bunny, as long as he just holds on against this, if he reaches like 6 to 7 BCs, I think this becomes like the unkillable army with this many Ravens to block for him, because so much supply is in Ultralisks. Like he'll force Petraeus to sacrifice his whole army just so he has enough supply to build enough Corruptors to try and kill the battlecruisers. Does he still have 60 some SCVs? Yeah, I don't know. He has right now something like I can't actually see how many orbital commands he has because he has so many buildings, but he has an absurd number of them.
Yeah, I think he should be trading out.
Yeah, actually, he doesn't really need SCVs actually at all in this game, just to mine gas now.
I mean, there's nothing over at that third base, or the fourth base rather, in the mid left-hand position. So it looks like he's kind of getting ready for it.
And we have a single Ultra run by into the main. If Bad Boy does get cleaned up. And now some SCVs finally get thrown away.
That's 30-minute timing, man. 30-minute Ultralisk attack at the main base.
Those 30 SCVs he threw away opens up an obscene amount of supply. He can easily get up that battlecruiser count that he needs to make this game very, very difficult for Petraeus.
I mean, would you have 5 battlecruisers or 30 SCVs in the main fight?
You know what? Fighting against a Zerg player that has Broodlords, Infestors, Corruptors, Queens, Ultralisks, Zerglings, I think I'd take the battlecruisers.
I think so.
Those SCVs look intimidating with their drills, but I don't think those weapons are certified to take down a Zerg army of that magnitude.
So it looks like Petraeus' win condition is actually just playing attrition and having that gold base on top of his opponent, right? Because like he's denying the gold base in the top right-hand side and the mid left-hand.
He has to try to starve out Bunny. Like Bunny's army is reaching like critical mass, but if you look at the banks, like Petraeus has enough to trade. Bunny does not. Bunny's going to be focused entirely on having an absurdly cost-effective army supply.
Yes, and hopefully, I mean,
I love the Seekers
it's like
too.
anything can happen in these engagements. So I can't really say like one person has the advantage or one person has the disadvantage, because you get a good fungal and you stop all the Seeker Missiles. You get good Seeker Missiles and you obliterate the Zerg army. So it's very hard to tell exactly who will have this endgame advantage. And we know, I mean,
he should see the battlecruisers now. I think he might have glimpsed vision. Okay, the first Yamato came out, so he should definitely know that there's battlecruisers. This has to definitely make him start sweating. Most of this army cannot deal with a Sky Terran composition.
In general, though, I give the advantage to Petraeus just because you're much more likely to have games like this in ladder than you are to have it in tournaments. And we know that Petraeus has been laddering a lot more. So
those European mech Terrans, man.
That's right, man. There's a lot of good ones.
That's true. This actually reminds me a bit of the game I actually watched them play against each other yesterday warming up, which still just blows my mind. That they're like, yep, you have practice against me doing this now. Congratulations.
Oh, man.
And he's getting the Flying Locust upgrade. He's not going to actually build Swarm Hosts.
It would be a little bit weird, man.
I mean, the Thors deal really well with the Flying Locust, and the Point Defense is still effective. But I guess at this point, you might as well get every upgrade, right?
Yeah, you might as well. I suppose so. I mean, he has
Bunny,
such a bank. Look
Bunny's
at that.
gotten the most important ones for this army composition. He's just now finishing durable materials, which makes the auto turrets and the point defense drones last longer. He also has high-sec auto tracking and building armor for his planetary fortresses and missile turrets, and they also benefit the auto turrets. Like he's got every upgrade that he needs to make this army cost effective.
Music to my ears, Nate. Music to my ears. I mean, it's a good position.
He's up to 8 battle cruisers, by the way. He has 2 more about to finish.
It's starting to be like
This is getting out of hand.
a crazy position for Terran because just looking at the army tab, they're actually even in army supply, which is very, very crazy. But we have the capacity for Terran to go down to like 180 supply instead of like 150 or 160 around there.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because you can keep getting command centers slowly but surely and just trade out your SCVs eventually and only rely on mules.
Yeah, because the mules don't cost supply and they can gather minerals, especially when you're already maxed out. It's just really complementing your bank, whereas you only need SCVs to mine gas.
Yep.
And even if you suddenly decided you needed SCVs that can Greetorp, with 20 orbital commands, I think building, saturating a base takes 17 seconds. So you're good. You're good there. Infested Terran bombs keep hitting these bases. Just trying to focus down. I think at this point, like, damaging the planetary is still okay, because if you can get it burning, then the repair costs will still burn resources. I think denying the refinery would also be a pretty smart choice. But Bunny has reached what I would call the dream composition for Terran.
I think
he
so.
has tanks, he has Thors, he has battle cruisers and Ravens and Vikings. There's not a whole lot else you need against Zerg.
I do like what Zerg is doing here, though. A lot of people might be confused. Why is he going back and forth, just cleaning up auto turrets? What he's really trying to do is catch these battle cruisers out of position, and you can see it's forcing scans always.
Yeah, and it's also burning Raven energy, too.
It's burning Raven energy, and it's also given the capabilities, if ever you're out of position, I can instantly abduct and kill whatever X thing it is. He just needs to be careful because, you need to reconcile the fact that he's probably going to Yamato. He's probably going to be able to kill some of my ultras.
That's the one thing that makes battle cruisers so strong in this position, is that the Yamato range is rivaled only by, not even barely, like abduct is still 1 range less than it. So you have a really hard time of actually counterplaying this when the Terran is in such a defensive posture.
And you pick the right units, they're 100% dead. You can't transfuse them. Ultras can get transfused. Vipers cannot get transfused. Queens cannot get transfused. You're just going to straight up die.
Yeah, it's not the old days either. Each battle cruiser, man, with full energy, it can fire off 2 Yamato cannons, which is enough to one-shot any unit in this composition except for, the Ultralisks.
Yeah.
Which aren't really even a key factor anymore. The Ultralisks are actually on, like, some sort of quest, They're like, well, we're kind of useless. Let's just try to do a run-by against this planetary fortress, and I guess, like, they're going to kill some stuff, but there's not a whole lot here to actually kill.
It's actually pretty good here, right? Like, the Ultras are baiting out, saying, hey, come at me with your battle cruisers. 1 battle cruiser won't be enough to actually kill them right away.
What do you think about just posturing this army between the... Like, can he actually try to get around where this gold base is? Because I feel like the Broodlords could also just ransack the production of Bunny.
He needs to stay on creep. If he doesn't stay on creep, he will get Seeker Missile, and that's the worst situation. You want to constantly be going forward, engaging a little bit, doing your burst damage, abducting, and then backing up immediately, because if any of those Seeker Missiles hit, it's a bad situation. But look at this. This is the slowest push ever,
Now
by
they're
the way.
fist fighting for pennies here. He's trying to long distance mine this gold base. I think he should just make it rain with the mules on this one. But Gachi manages to abduct a few of the battle cruisers. All right, so he's going to start to get a couple of trades here. But here come the Yamatos. Here come the point defense drones blocking a lot of the counterside. That battle cruiser that got pulled in fought for so long. Grabs 2 more, though. Petraeus is starting to get some really nice pulls. He's now researching Neural Parasite as well.
Seeker Missiles aren't able to do nearly as much damage, and these Queens actually have a lot of retention rate in all of this, as they, can constantly transfuse each other. But there is actually no meat to the Zerg army anymore. It's going to have to back out. You can see the battle cruisers and the Vikings staying alive. Bunny will take a small, tiny advantage from that fight. But look at the bank, Nate. That's scary. This is the power. Okay, this is the power of Terran at the late game, with them having the extra, battle cruisers, the extra units, but also Zerg at the end game when they're able to maintain that economic advantage over their opponents.
Yeah, we can see a couple Lings doing a bit of a run by. He did actually clean up that planetary in the northwest. Actually, was there there was, okay, not that much gas actually left in that base, so not the worst deal ever. Ducks a Thorin. I mean, every unit killed here is very nice since Petraeus has a lot more resources. Like 5 battlecruisers are being built. Bunny cannot replace this army anymore. Like, he does not have enough resources left in all of the bases that he's occupying to do this. He's long distance mining the center base, and Petraeus is actually mining out Bunny's gold now.
Wow, and little does Petraeus know that he can actually, well, apparently he does know he's actually going to push forward now and stop this gold base from going down. Great fungals on top of the Vikings. That's exactly what you need to do, but he's not able to chain them. Seeker missiles will go down. A lot of these units in yellow and red. Is he going to be able to actually eliminate this air army?
The Ravens are out of energy. There's no more point defense drone. The Corruptors are able to push forward. He has transfuses.
Well,
he's baited back the Seeker missile targeted Corruptors, and he is slowly but surely chewing away at this Viking count.
All right, Petraeus will have to back out. It looks like he wasn't able to actually get the elimination, but that is as good as you can
14 more Corruptors on the way, and he still has that line of spores. I feel like the Abducts are the key playmakers since he can utilize that supply-free static defense. I guess he's not maxed at this point. Neither player is going to have an easy time doing that again this game.
No, but this gold base helps out so much in the top right-hand corner. This is actually Bunny's gold base. 2 Hellions are going to get over here and say, no.
He doesn't even have blue flame.
I don't
think
so,
he can't actually
man.
two-shot the drones.
Hellbath will be made. He's just going to back up from here. I mean, this is crazy from both guys because, you know, they're basically on one base economy with those center bases really being mined. We have Bunny that's mining from the gold base, kind of long distance, and of course we have Petraeus that's mining from his opponent's gold distance. So it's, you know, it's a compromising situation. Infested Terrans are going to pop down.
He's got a lot of infested Terrans too. He also has that Neural Parasite available as well if he was able to get close to those
Seeker
battle
missiles?
cruisers.
They're going to go off. Oh.
Okay, actually gets a couple of decent Seekers.
Okay.
Here come the Infestors. Most of the Siege Tanks are gone. He could try to go for Neurals. He's going to keep throwing Fungals and Infested Terrans underneath this army. Now the Planetary's gone. The Queens and the Infested Terrans have nothing else to worry about.
That's going to be enough, man. The battle cruisers are going down right now. Corruptors still maintained, and there's a lot of Infested Terrans. Ultralisks also maintained and pushing through. And look at that. They get tickled a little bit by those battle cruisers because there's just not enough there. Oh, wow, this Ultra, he's trying for dear life.
Leave me alone, guys. It's like, you guys don't even last that long anyway.
It will be able to get out of there, though. But Bunny, wow, like this is a crazy
Bunny
game.
doesn't even have enough resources to repair these battle cruisers.
Both of them are really low in resources. That's the main thing. He was able to clean up that base, though, in the top right-hand corner, the gold base that was on Bunny's side. Petraeus no longer has that, which is important. So they
This game
are
has been
on
so sick, man.
equal economy right now. It's just very tough, man. Who would have ever have thought? Army supply is like exactly the same, 95 to 100. That is crazy.
Super, super close. The army compositions as they stand, 10 Corruptors, 3 Ultralisks, 12 Infestors, 12 Queens, and 3 Vipers versus 6 Battlecruisers, 4 Ravens, 2 Tanks, and 9 Vikings. A little sprinkling of Marines.
All right, he's going for a great Abducts immediately on top of the Battlecruisers. The weakened ones will go down very quickly, and all that's left is 2 Battlecruisers. Instantly
Petraeus,
get locked down.
He's doing it. He's going to tie this series up, I think, Greetor. Pushing in. All the Battlecruisers are dead. He has leftover Queens and Ultras for days now. 22 Lings coming in to supplement this army. More Infested Terrans being thrown. These 2 Marines are not going to save the game.
Wow, GG. Petraeus will take game number 2. A beautifully executed endgame by both these guys. We had a 50-minute game. A 50-minute game, and it came down to the wire.
That was awesome. We got to see actually everything. Like, we actually saw everything in that game from Bunny. We had him open up with the aggressive, held that Banshee push. He transitioned into a Mech Thor mid-game. Then he made the mid-late transition back into Bio and finished the game out with Battlecruisers. Fights like this were so crucial. Both players being maxed out. He did a really good job of splitting his forces against the point defense drones, but also having all these Spore Callers underneath the army to help get rid of that point defense drone energy.
I mean, these get so chaotic for the players. Like, a lot of stuff is going on. You're transfusing, you're abducting, you're Yamatoing, you're PDDing, you're trying to auto-turret, position your units better, and when it comes down to it, I felt like Bunny needed more. He needed EMPs with this army. That would have helped out critically. But, you know, managing all that army composition,
it's tough.
Adding another spellcaster into your composition.
Petraeus being up like close to 2 bases worth of economy most of the time was really nice as well. Being able to take his opponent's gold base just
oh yeah,
It's
helps
not even
out.
it's not even about Petraeus having that money. It's about Bunny not getting it. Because
Yes.
Petraeus, at the very least, has his own gold base that he can rely on. So it makes things a lot easier for him.
That's important to note that Petraeus did have an entire gold base up on his opponent that entire game. It was very, very close. I mean, that is kind of how ZVT works, where Zerg is slightly less efficient than Terran, and it looks like, based on these two caliber players, it's just about a gold base in
A gold base of
More,
difference.
yeah.
A gold base more was all Petraeus needed to secure that game. But when you're playing with such wild compositions, that is not a Terran versus Zerg game that is seen close to ever.
That is a Petraeus versus Bunny game. That is a game that these two guys have so much history that things probably in a vacuum don't make sense. But with their history, they know they're going to kind of mind game each other. So putting in those builds that like Petraeus did, or excuse me, that Bunny did, it just makes a lot of sense to try to fake them out, get the win for a 2-0.
That's like the kind of style that we saw in like Pro League in like early 2014. Like some crazy guys do it. Like I think like Fantasy did it like a few times, and it was really cool. But you know, it never caught on. And Bunny's just like, yeah, this is a pretty solid way to play against Petraeus. I still think it was a really good choice, but you know, Petraeus reacted beautifully. Like he played that game damn near perfect.
I think so. I think so. And we're getting ready to kick off with game number 3. It will be on Coda Ladder Edition in the bottom right-hand position. As the Red Terran, it is Team Liquid's Bunny.
Currently tied 1 apiece with our Blue Zerg in the northwest position. The New Zealander representing Team My Insanity, it's Petraeus. I was so looking forward to this series today, man, and I'm
delivered.
Glad. I have been satisfied so far. This has been good.
And you know what? Like we still have a lot of really cool games ahead of us, because the way Jim was playing in the first series, it's really scary. And of course, Kane, you know, started off with a little bit of a hiccup.
He still has a more than realistic
That's
shot
right.
of getting out of this group too.
I mean, he's one of the only foreigners to make it super deep into WCS Season 1. I mean, we expect very high things from all of these guys. It really is a shame that we have to say bye to some of them.
Especially, I think it could get really weird if Bunny ends up dropping this series, because Bunny lost the last best of 3 that he played against Kane when they played in the winners match of their group in round of 16 for WCS Season 1. So that just further complicates this this whole group, all the possible ways that this could end up. It gets a little wild. Now, Petraeus opening very, very aggressively, it seems, on this map. Was he expecting the command center first, or does he use this as a counterplay to catch the first Reaper off guard and then go for a big all-in?
I think it's definitely a response to the command center first, because you're trying to just punish your opponent for being greedy. But do we see greed? No, we do not. It still does work out against like the regular Reaper builds too. I mean, it can catch the Reaper builds off guard. And one thing that we haven't seen from Bunny is the SCV Scout. We haven't seen that at all.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
a really
SCV
good point.
Scout before the Reaper is actually a big indicator to let you know all-ins are coming or they might not come.
Because the thing is, while if Petraeus were to build Lings as soon as this spawning pool is finished, they're not going to accomplish much with the Reaper on the map, but he could have his speed out before he has to worry about there being a lot of Hellions. So if Bunny goes, he's like, and Bunny should, because it's pretty standard, it's like the way most turns play, build your command center on the low ground, you're usually not worried about fast pools, and you just kind of play straight up. He could overwhelm the natural, kill any mules and SCVs that are there, and use it to posture for a further all-in, or to just chill there. So he has a reasonable amount of options in front of him, but it gets tricky very quickly.
It does. I mean, you can very easily fall behind economically if you are the Zerg player, and we're just experiencing some small little hiccups, so bear with us, ladies and gentlemen. But you can very easily get behind economically as Zerg if you don't do, I guess, enough damage. But, you know, I don't know. I feel like denying the command centers these days is actually like a better option a lot of the times, just because Terrans these days have been super greedy. And it just puts yourself in a really nice position if you are Zerg in ZVT. It's just unfortunate in this specific scenario how defensive Bunny has become, and I feel like they're metaing each other. They're mind gaming each other.
Yeah, well, they both, if they've played each other as much as they say they have, and the way that game showed, it certainly seemed like it. You have to to be ready for everything. And for Bunny in that last game, it was all about the patient play. As we jump back in here now, the thing about Coda is that third base is reasonably well exposed, I think, for Zergling counterattack type plays, as, if you're in a long game. But also, if you're able to secure that third base, taking the fourth is very easy if you're going for anything like mech especially, because you have such a short distance between the two center bases that making that push is, well, it's just a hop, skip, and jump away.
I actually think roach pressure is really good on this match, like what we saw in game number 1, except you stay on it. And the main reason
you
for
have a
that,
big ramp.
One, you have the big ramp. 2, getting a third base for Terran isn't all that easy.
Yeah, that's
Where
right.
do you position your siege tank? Where do you take your third? If you take it closer to your opponent, well, it makes the roach push a little bit stronger, a little bit faster. You could put your siege tanks up in your main base, but it gets a little bit awkward. If you go to take this third in the bottom middle position, well, then you have to defend against 2 locations and a very open position. So roaches definitely make sense in TvZ on this map, a lot more than other maps, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to see that. It's just something to point out.
Now, Bunny playing this a little close to the chest is actually very smart of him, as he's recognized it's a fast ling opening. Building that command center in his main was so smart. If those lings get in there and pick that SCV off, if they force a cancel, that's pretty much game. And he's coming in here, he's basically saying, yeah, don't you dare lift that barracks up. He manages to get it up in there.
Man, it was great timing too. It's
Yeah.
almost like he knew exactly the minutes and seconds of when to actually poke up. And
You play enough games. If you're Petraeus and you've played hundreds and hundreds of ladder games this season, you know.
definitely so.
That's the difference between a good Zerg and a great Zerg.
I agree, man. It's just those little tiny timing. That's why you need to do gas timings more, Nate.
Well, that's true. It's also very impressive, for Bunny to be mindful of something like that. I couldn't tell you the number of games I've lost. You lift a wall, you're like, oh, this is a pretty normal time to lift my wall, and then it's like a bunch of lings when it's like, how did you know? It's like, well, I pay attention in all the other games I play because every Terran does it at the same exact time.
Yeah. I mean, I swear, just when I think StarCraft gets figured out, like these guys innovate.
There's always something else.
Tiny little things.
There's always something else that you can do to try to get an edge in a matchup like this. Small things like that. He's put this Roach Horn in a position where if the Hellions and Reapers pressure the front, they won't see it. They won't know. Now, keep in mind, Bunny did start up Stim back home. He will not be going for a mech-based opening. I don't want to say mech-based strategy because, the last game, I believe anything could happen now in this series.
That's right.
Even these 3 lings are just being annoying. They're not lining up well enough for this Hellion. They just kill them all.
And just forces Bunny to micro a lot more than he wants to. He does catch this this third base popping out here. Now, ordinarily we were talking about how timings at third base really give you indicators. At this point, this pops down at like 7 minutes, and wow, it's a Baneling nest. So it pops down at 7 minutes. A lot of times you're thinking, well, it's pretty normal since he went spawning pool first, but actually the timings aren't that crazy, or don't change that much, even if you go pool first.
But the nice thing about the commitment to defend this third base is that it really sells to Bunny, in my opinion, that he wants the third base, which, based on the roaches and the Baneling nest about to finish, I don't think that's the case.
Who does? I haven't seen this in forever, by the way. I really haven't seen
the last time I saw a good roach Bane all in was actually Kane against Bunny, I believe, in the first season. He used it to pretty good effect. It wasn't on a map like this though.
And now Bunny realizes exactly what he's up against. How does he react? He needs to throw down bunkers immediately, and there they are. It takes about 40 seconds to move across the map.
That rush distance is short enough that with the roaches already being so close, the only thing he won't have time for is the Banelings. But I think he could actually crack this ramp with the initial roach push.
I think so. Oh, he actually picks up a lot of Zerglings, which is helpful. That's right. So he can actually get rid of the engineering base. I think Bunny's going to be okay. The only problem is he loses the engineering base, he loses the supply depots, and he could lose a lot of units here. Those 2 bunkers on the right-hand side are really close together.
He's going to push in anyway. He kills the depot. He wants to just run straight into this natural, but like you said, he's got that bunker there. He's got a Marauder in the bunker. He has more Marauders coming out. He has this Widow Mines finishing him now, and I think the Banelings are still a good. I don't think it's ever a bad move to bust the engineering base here, because you set the Terran back in Stone Age as far as upgrades go, but looking at the production tab still with more lings, Petraeus, he's not taking no for an answer in this game.
I don't think so. And there is that Widow Mine there to help out. Will he get a good connection?
Oh,
wow!
Oh, man, I think having the Banelings up front first would have helped a lot more with this push. He's not going to get the engineering base. He breaks the depot, but with 3
Oh my
bunkers and
God.
more Widow Mines in position for Bunny, I think this should be a pretty crisp hold.
That's it. That Widow Mine was such a big momentum swing. And look at that. He actually evacuates that bunker and is able to maintain some of his army into that second bunker. So a really nice defense over here. More Zerglings will stream
And
in.
all the mines are still alive.
Yeah.
If Petraeus decides he wants to fire and rev it up again for another attack, those Widow Mines will all detonate on his forces. And Bunny, he's just chilling in his bunkers, man. There's no friendly fire here when you're inside of those things.
So far, we don't have a switch over to drones for our Zerg hero over here, so he's not thinking of stopping the aggression. He really feels like he has to keep going.
I really think that pushing up with those Lings, the Lings he moved up before the Banelings were there, were the only reason why the mines detonated in time to kill those Banelings.
Yes, I like this, by the way. They're kind of forcing each other to stop the mines and start them again. It looks like he will be able to get in, but it's just not going to be enough.
Maybe he cracks the bunker. The second bunker's not in position.
Oh,
He's got a few more
Baneling.
Banelings. Actually gets the SCVs here.
That's a good amount of SCVs.
Keep in mind, though,
9.
he killed a lot of workers, yes, but now they're even on workers.
They're even.
And there's still mules for Bunny. So economically speaking, he's in a phenomenal position, and he finished his 1-1. I cannot stress how important that is for defending pushes like
That
this.
is a stoppage to any sort of attack that can work a little bit later
He has
on.
Stim, Medivacs, and 1-1. Petraeus is just now starting Evolution Chambers. He's just now realized, this isn't going to work. Well, you don't have too many more options at this point. Without a lair, how are you ever going to get something that can deal with drops?
I don't
let
know.
alone frontal assaults.
I don't know. 1-1 drops are so scary when you're at 0-0.
Yeah.
As Zerg, you don't have really defensive Banelings, so you're not thinking about
Zerglings
that.
actually can't kill Marines that are being healed by Medivacs when they're up in armor upgrade like that.
Yeah,
Because of how
they can't.
close they pack in. Like, you need a full surround, and even then it still takes a crazy amount of time. There's no Banelings here, so he just drops a few on the low. Oh, look at this. Bunny's just
beautiful.
recognizing. He's like, I can bait you over with the top ones, and then drops them on the bottom and clean up easy peasy.
Yeah, it really is beautiful what Bunny is doing right here. And it looks like he successfully is able to kill a lot of Zerglings here and probably some Banelings. He's still doing the same thing, kills an Overlord. I do want to just mention real quick that throughout that whole attack that was happening with Bunny, he actually continued to make SCVs throughout all of that. A lot of times you cut SCVs. He felt so confident in defending that. It was like, well, I don't have to worry a thing. When you said it was even workers, he was actually even workers a minute ago. Then he lost 9, and he still had even workers. So it just showcases, like, Bunny is so confident and so accurate.
The power of the 3 command center builds.
Yep.
Like, as a Zerg, you don't look to kill SCVs. You need to kill everything.
need to win.
You need to win with the pushes like this. And we see right now, 1 Baneling. You know, Bunny's good at target firing
Oh,
those.
man.
Bye-bye, Baneling. And all the drones are going to die at this third base. He got another drop inside of the natural expansion, and Bunny's looking to go to the winner's match. GG! Takes the 2-1 over Petraeus. A phenomenal second series here, the World Championship Series for Season 2 Premier Agreed Tour. Bunny in a very, very intense back-and-forth series.
If you told me that was the round of 8 or round of 4, I would believe it. These two guys, it's really unfortunate that potentially they could eliminate one or the other, because I really feel like Petraeus showcased some really great skills. I love the mix-up in game number 3, showcasing, hey, I can play the mind games, I can play the meta games, I see that you haven't been scouting, I think I can punish you. But Bunny, this is why he's considered one of the best, if not the best foreigner in current contention.
It can't be stressed enough how important it is to pick off those few Lings before the Roaches actually get to his base, because it allows him to prevent Banelings from being morphed as early to actually crack the ramp so the Roaches can get in, but also reacting fast enough to get the bunkers up behind the 2 engineering base, because he broke the first wall. If he doesn't have 3 bunkers, if he has 1 or 2, I think he still loses the game. Being able to pack all of his units inside really helps him, especially since Widow Mines will splash damage friendly units that aren't in bunkers.
And that's the type of thing that you need, like, countless games to just have the ease of defending like that.
To be able to
because
say, I know what to do.
it wasn't necessarily prepared, but it's a situation he's been in so many times that he's like, I know what to do. I'm calm, I'm collect. My crisis management is still at 100% of my capabilities. Bunny just easily defended that, said, I know I'm going to defend this. Let's keep making SCVs. Let's get a bigger advantage. Let's get 1-1. A lot of people are just saying, I can't get 1-1. I need all those minerals and gas for my other stuff. He's like, no. Let me show you guys how to defend this.
Yeah, well, let's see what Bunny has to say. We have him up on the main stage with Smix. Let's hear his thoughts on that series.
Thank you very much, Nathanius. Congratulations, buddy. What an amazing, just awesome series, to be honest. That game, too, was so crazy and back and forth. It was a long game. And then it all came down to when the engagement started, it was a slow and steady process. Walk us through what was going through your head during that time.
I didn't have a lot of experience with that kind of style, like the bio, like, you mean the mech into bio, but I wasn't feeling really comfortable playing the turtle game, but then he defended my push. He had very fast ultralisk, so he kind of forced me into it, and I felt a little bit uncomfortable because I'm still not sure exactly how to play that situation. I thought things were going okay for me actually, but then in the end he managed to trade well enough.
Well, after a long game like that, and when it was tied 1-1, it was game 3, he came at you with a Roach Bane, and it could have caught you off guard, but you were able to defend very well.
Yeah, it's very hard to defend Roach Bane when you're doing the build I did with no starport. I got a really good Widowmine hit on a lot of the Banelings. I think that was a key part in how I defended, but it was like really close and just a few things different I probably would have lost. But yeah, I think I controlled pretty well and I was able to hold, so yeah.
Well, people, when they talk about you, Bunny, they talk about how you're the best foreigner right now. There's a lot of talk and praise for you. But despite that, you've had a crazy schedule. You were at Gfinity, you were just at DreamHack this past weekend, and now you're here in WCS in Burbank. You must be exhausted. Do you think that's affecting your play at all?
Yeah, I think it's affecting me a lot. I've actually, when I got here, regretting a little bit that I went to DreamHack because it has been such a tough schedule and I'm a bit jet lagged here, a bit tired. I didn't get to practice a lot on the new maps. And my TvZ practice actually wasn't going so well. I was a bit worried coming here, but now that I won the first series, I'm feeling a lot better. So I'm feeling pretty confident now.
Well, last but not least, you said that you weren't feeling so confident in your TvZ. Your next opponent is not going to be a Zerg player. It's going to be Jim, a Protoss player. So what are your thoughts about your TVP?
It's very easy. That is all.
All right, well, very confident words from Bunny. Best of luck in your next series, guys. We are going to go to a commercial break, but when we come back, it'll be our first elimination match of Group A. It'll be Kane versus Petraeus, so let us know what you guys are thinking prediction-wise. Hashtag WCS on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll be back after this.
I move objects with my mind. I climb the tallest mountains and slay dragons. I defend my galaxy from ruthless aliens. I am never bored. I am stronger. I am faster. I am G1.